Hello, Fallbrook High School. My name is Miss Aguila. I'm going to be talking about A through G requirements and kind of what's their deal, right? Like we hear them all 4 years through high school. So let's go a little deeper and kind of discuss what it means. So A through G requirements are what you need to apply to a UC or a CSU here in California. You have to get C's or higher, and it's essentially just these little check marks. You got to keep making sure while you're in high school, you're checking those boxes and you're completing these requirements. We do have them listed right here, right? It says 2 years of history, a year of visual and performing arts, but we really want to explain what that really means. And so you guys know, and you're prepared, and we know how to help you throughout our time here. So what kind of universities use A through G requirement? We have such a variety of universities and colleges in California, and it's so great because our students are able to explore different majors, different classes possibly. California state schools and UCs are the ones that use A through G requirements. To name a few, Cal State San Marcos, UC San Diego, UC Riverside. There are other universities outside of the UC CSU system that have similar requirements, but it's always important to think, hey, I might want to apply to a private school, so I should double check those requirements. And you're not really sure, or you're just considering applying to USC, USD, right? Those other schools. You can always check in with the counselors. We are more than happy to help explore different universities, even out of state. Let's start with the A requirement. The A requirement is 2 years of history. And the good thing is, Fallbrook High School kind of already has it embedded in our graduation requirement. To graduate from Fallbrook High School, you need world history, American history, and government and econ. For the A requirement for A through G, you need world history and American history. You have to pass with a C or higher, but you do need those two courses. Students do get to take them naturally in a sequence. They take world history 10th grade, American history 11th grade year. So by taking those two classes, passing with a C or higher, students are already meeting the A requirement, just like that. The B requirement is English. Every student at Fallbrook High School takes 4 years of English. We like to set them up for Palomar, wherever their goal is. We want to make sure they have this strong foundation. 4 years of English at Fallbrook, as long as they're getting a C or higher, they meet that requirement. All right, so let's talk about the C requirement, which is math. So for Cal States and UCs, you need 3 years of math, although 4 is required. And like I said previously, you'll hear a lot. You need to be getting C's or above to stay A through G. So math, though, is one of the only requirements that can be validated. What do I mean by that? Validation means essentially the higher level math you take validates the lower level grade. So a good example, like I have on the screen, is if a student receives a D in Integrated Math 2, but receives a C in the first semester of Integrated Math 3, the D is validated by that higher level math. So if students struggle in math, their first year can't pull off a C, but then they gain a lot of confidence and they get stronger, and by the time they take Integrated Math 2 and they get an A or a B or a C, it validates that grade. So they don't have to go back and retake it for A through G. They are staying A through G. So D is going to be the science requirement. For UCs and Cal States, they require 2 years, but they do recommend 3. With the recommendations, we always think it's better to do what is recommended, but we do have to consider your major. If you know your major is going to be English, then maybe 3 years of math, 4 years of math isn't necessarily what you need. All right, so let's talk about science. Science is the D requirement. So you only need 2 years, but they recommend 3. And every time they mention any kind of recommendation, it's always good to do it, especially for highly competitive schools. Every time there's a recommendation from the UC, Cal States, it's a good idea to follow it, especially if you're going into a major that is science or math heavy and they're recommending doing that extra year. We as a school also want you to follow that recommendation. So the good thing is for science, our graduation requirement does require biology and chemistry. So as long as our students get a C or above, they are meeting that requirement. They aren't meeting the 3rd year, but they can easily do that by taking physics, human anatomy. they have the ability to easily be A through G as long as we are getting C's and above. Okay, E is the requirement is for world language. Very similar to math, languages can be validated. And what I mean by that is that if your student gets a lower grade, for instance, in the first semester of Spanish 1, like a D, but the second semester they get a C, they don't have to retake that first semester. They're good to move on to the next level. For world languages, you do need to do 2 years for A through G, but 3 years is recommended. This one is case by case. I always say talk to your counselor, kind of get a general idea of what class you would take instead of that 3rd year of that language. It needs to be 2 years of the same language. So you can't do like 1 year of ASL and 1 year of Spanish, and that will count as 2 years. It needs to be like ASL 1, ASL 2, or Spanish 1 and Spanish 2. F is the requirement for visual and performing arts. So visual and performing arts, we like to call it VAPA for short. Student need 1 full year of this discipline to meet this requirement. What do I mean by that? Within the art requirement, they have different disciplines. So for instance, art is a visual art while band is a music discipline. So you can't take 1 semester of art and then jump into like the 2nd semester of band to meet your VAPA credit. You need to do art for the full year or band for the full year. We have such a variety of VAPAs as well. I listed a couple, but we have so many more that can meet that requirement that can help students be prepared for the future. Our last requirement for A through G is the G. So G requirement is college prep elective. And what that means is the UC system and the Cal State system want students to have an opportunity to explore different classes. They want to strengthen their general study skills. And by doing that, they kind of get to branch out and take something different. A lot of our general electives cover the G requirement. Every class we have at Fallbrook essentially is college prep. So at some point they will be able to meet their G requirement. A lot of students have met it without realizing it. Some examples of G requirements are culinary, robotics, a lot of our CTE classes, AVID, ROTC, some AP electives fall under that as well. So it's a really great opportunity for students to kind of branch out and explore different classes. So we went through every single letter for A through G. I want to thank you for your time and listening to this presentation. If you have any further questions, I highly suggest making an appointment with your school counselor to know and map out how we keep our students A through G, how we can make up some Ds so we have the opportunity to apply for a 4-year university, and just general other questions. We are here to support every family at Fallbrook, and we want everyone to have the same opportunities and abilities to feel successful.